Hi there. So this section is talking to angels or connecting to the angelic realm. Now, it kind of falls under the bigger umbrella of working with and talking to spirit guides and our spirit team and soul team and that kind of thing. Now, when we're looking at this, I do see a lot of people running into issues where the being that they're talking to didn't necessarily have their greatest interest um, at heart. Now, that's not always on purpose. Sometimes it is. It's a much broader story. But if we're looking at the guides as individual kind of groups, so angels as one group, we have very specific blocks to angels. Then we've got things like elementals. So we're now looking at kind of reconnecting with some more of our shamanic roots, talking to nature spirits and that kind of thing. They have a very different moral compass. They have very little understanding of what we would call suffering, good or bad, right and wrong. So if you look at nature, nature doesn't necessarily care. We will look at things in nature and say, "Oh my God, that's terrible." You know, a lion can go and eat the children of of a deer or something in front of it. But in the nature realm, they don't have that moral judgment. So we do have to start being a little bit more careful about what we're connecting with and what we're communicating with, and not look at them through the lens of what we think is good or bad. Quite often hear people or have clients that have run into issues where they just assume that everything is good and everything is in the highest and best and everything is brilliant. And I love that. I love that idea. Unfortunately, in reality, it doesn't always work that way. Now, that's kind of then moving into the idea of working with negative entities, and a lot of teachers won't talk about working with negative entities simply because if you've got a group of people you're working with and you come in and you go, right, we're going to work with dark forces today, suddenly everybody creates a group field, and it's really not a healthy thing to do. And also then you get a lot of people on the training courses that now assume that everything is a problem or everything's an entity, and you can manifest them if you focus on them too much. So first of all, when we're talking to, as this section is more talking to the angelic realm, um, anything that we're talking to, we need to create a safe space first. That's why I use the 13th chakra technique, because we're going to source, and anything we then call in, we automatically have a layer of protection. If you are channeling and connecting directly from your system, you have to do it through your navel, through your stomach. That actually has a filter on it that will protect you, but it is very important, and also truth. Now, quite often, I wouldn't say quite often, but I've worked with quite a few people where they've done things like Ouija boards or something like that, or they've got a spirit that's helping them. And it turns out that it wasn't what they thought it was. Or if it's a human, say it's the dead grandma or something along those lines, they don't know anything after they've died that they didn't know when they were alive. Okay, so what we really need to do is work out whatever message we're getting, is it in alignment with the highest truth? And what is the alignment of truth in this message? I'll throw one other issue out there. We might work with high dimensional guides again when we work with the whole galactics, cosmic consciousness, star seeds, that kind of thing. Where a lot of people are getting into that side of it, which is beautiful, but not every being that you work with may have incarnated, and not every being that you work with will have your personal interests at heart. So, for instance, there's a big thing called the Galactic Council of Light. Galactic Council. Now imagine Star Trek, okay? Galactic Council, different races, different beings, and they're the Earthlings. And the Earthlings have got dark matter. We can now do that. We've got the Hadron Collider. And this is terrifying because we now have the ability to rip a hole in the fabric of reality and look at how warring and how terrifying we are. We just want to hurt each other and kill each other. So the Galactic Council, and beings from the Galactic Council, might connect with humans and work with us for world peace. Wonderful, absolutely great. There's a number of soul contracts that come in with that kind of thing. However, what you need to also understand is you are here for your spiritual ascension path. Your personal journey is more important than the journey of humanity. You did not incarnate to save humanity. You may have incarnated on earth to go through your karmic and incarnational process, and as you rise, your energy will help humanity. But if you had a guide that was a member of the Council of Light, they might be asking you to do things that actually don't help you karmically and don't help you on your spiritual journey, because they're looking at the greater good. They're not looking at you specifically. You can be sacrificed for the greater good as far as they're concerned. I'm not saying that that is going to happen. I did work with someone about 2 months ago, and they were working with a seventh dimensional being. And that seventh dimensional being was beautiful. It had never ever incarnated before. It had never been human. I don't even think it had ever been physical. And so it had a lot of great ideas, but also it still has seventh dimensional ego consciousness. So it comes through that filter. It's not 100% right. And some of the stuff that it was coming up with was great, but it came through a line of, I think this being is on its way down to incarnate, because there was a bit of ego in there where it was trying to, its ideas were around changing things that didn't necessarily need to be changed. So what we're going to do, again, all of you that are on a subscription, first of all, I would always suggest creating your room. So however you do that, with whatever modality, if you are using the 13th chakra, then just connect down into your root chakra, into your Earth Star chakra, come back into your body, create the bubble, picture 22 feet above your, 6 feet above your head, 22 feet above your head, and Divine chakra, 13th, 1, 2, 3, all the way up. Take a few moments to center, and from that, step into the column of light, allow your entire body to become energetic. Already is, but you know what I mean. Witness it, and just into source, and from here, source of the universe, source of all love, I create a bridge to the angelic realm in the highest possible way. I create as I speak. Thank you, this is done. And now imagine yourself connected to the angelic realm. So as we're doing it this way round, because we're doing it from source, it has that level of protection to it. Nothing can happen. I wouldn't suggest you ever create a bridge to a negative realm, but if that happened, or if one turned up, or if you're working with somebody and they happen to have an entity, it sees you and you see it. As long as you're doing it from this point, you've got the protection that you need. Okay, so when we're looking at the blocks, now specifically for the angelic realm, we're now looking at a lot of religious conditioning that we have, not from the angels, just from us. So if you imagine imagine seeing an angel, if you think about the biblical stuff, even if you're not religious, the angel of the Lord appeared to Mary and suddenly she's going to have a baby. It's a lot to deal with. Whenever the angels turn up, suddenly big things change. Moses had the burning bushes. So we have this gravitas that we attach to the angelic realm. So the idea, or the first major block that comes up, is that if an angel appeared, or if you could hear or speak to angels, that whatever you want to do in life is now over. You have to do whatever they tell you, because the level of gravity, the gravitas of one turning up and going, right, this is what I want you to do. And it's like, okay. So, big block. To see an angel means I lose my life. To see an angel means I lose my power. To see an angel means I lose my dreams, my hopes. If I see an angel, if I speak to an angel, if I connect to angels, I have to give up my hopes, my dreams. I have to give up my purpose. Now, a classic one would be that I need to be dead to do that. So to see an angel, I need to die before I can connect to spirits, before I connect to angels. Again, to be closer to the God is to be closer to the devil. That's an old version. So if I can see an angel, demons can see me. I'm not important enough. I'm not big enough to see angels, to speak to angels. And if I see an angel, I'm not allowed to say no. So I'd rather not see an angel. So if I see an angel, if I speak to an angel, if I connect to an angel, I lose free will. So have a look at those. Again, I'll put a list underneath and you can see how you go with all of that. And if you're on the subscription, then what I want you to do is pause this, have a look through the list, and turn it back on again, and we'll continue.